So if you're a hard surface artist and you want to be a character artist, how do you make that transition? How do you do it? But you have to start exactly with the same way you started with hard surface. You have to start building stuff, and you have to start the basics, and then accept that for a certain amount of time you're going to suck at it.
You're listening to Art Heroes Podcast, the show to help you thrive as a digital artist. Tune in to learn how to transform your passion into a career. Get inspired by other kick-ass 2D and 3D artists, and find out what it takes to be an art hero.
Welcome to the Art Heroes Podcast, guys. This is episode 5, and I'm your host, Maria JD. And today we're having Brandon McCaffrey, an amazing 3D key art artist from Ireland who's currently based in Spain and has an amazing story to share. Brandon has been in the industry since 1996. That is literally before even ZBrush existed. And Brandon has so much to share. One amazing thing about Brandon is that he never stops learning. I know Brandon also because he was one of the students at Art Heroes Academy Stylized Character course. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, you're seeing the images of Brandon's final project. Isn't it amazing? I'm leaving the show notes link just here so that you could also check it out. And by the way, the next intake of the Stylized Character course starts really soon. On 19th of January is the first class. So guys, if you're into characters or if you want to get into characters, go check it out. We'd love to have you all on board on the next 2-month Stylized Character intensive. Go to academy.artheroes.co for more information on that. And meanwhile, let's dive into everything that we can learn from Brandon.
All right, Brandon, thanks for coming to the podcast. It's amazing to have you here as
I traveled all this way. Better be good.
Exactly. Better be good. Okay.
Yeah, I like this town though, Las Palmas.
Exactly. It's amazing, right? Like, how long have you been here?
16 years now.
Oh my God. 16 years seems like a long time.
Yeah, the way you said it sounded like 60.
No. We know it's not 60.
No, it's not. It's 60.
You're not that old, right?
No, Jesus, no.
All right, Brandon.
Not yet.
Yeah. Come on. Like, by the time we hit 2030, probably there is technology for all of us to live for, I don't know, 600 years. I don't know.
That's what it's looking like. So, yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, right. So this talk is not about technology today. We're actually we're gonna touch the base there as well.
Okay.
But why we're having you here is because you're a good friend of mine. Let's start from there. But you're also an amazing artist, and you're doing great stuff with with your skill. So that's what we definitely want to explore more in detail today.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So let's just start from the basics. We'll have some of your work on the show, linked to this, but can you just quickly, maybe describe your style? Like, what do you do with your art? How would you describe yourself as an artist?
Okay, I think it's really simple. I'm a commercial artist, so I work for clients, producing work that they're going to use in promotion and stuff. So I don't really consider myself a pure artist in that respect. So I've been mostly working in either video games or toys or products for the last, I'd say, 10 years. Originally I started off doing other types of 3D art, illustration, did a lot of architecture, did a lot of product design. I came from a product design background, so I think that influences everything I've done. And it's because, my experience is in product design, so it's what I know best.
Okay.
And everything I've done has been an extension of that, but I've tried to always push beyond just being limited as a product designer or as a person who's doing, or an artist who's doing product or architecture or visualization. So I've always wanted to do things like book covers. Book covers were I remember when I was maybe 16 or 17 years old, that's what I wanted to do because I was really into science fiction.
Okay.
So and
have you done any book covers?
Actually, yeah, I've done one. I was a science fiction book, yeah.
Okay, so now can you say that it ticked?
Yeah, I've ticked that box, and I'm actually really happy I've done that. But over the years, it's kind of evolved, and as books have become less important, and video games, for instance, have become more important. Like, let's say, not culturally, but more prevalent, and books have got more digital. I think there's also a whole. You could talk about how the industry works in terms of book covers and commissions and all of that. It's quite difficult and quite restrictive in terms of either budget or time to do those kind of things now. So you go naturally where, or at least I've gone naturally where I've found I'm making the most use of either my skills or my time. And it's been in video games or toys particularly been very good for me.
So now you're mostly either in toys or in video games.
Yeah, I mean that's what I aspire to doing anyway. So video game promo art or video game key art is what we call it, and toys as well, the same thing. It's basically the same thing regardless of the industry. In fact, when you talk about products or you talk about advertising, I've done quite a lot in the advertising realm as well. It's pretty much the same thing.
What would be a typical project of yours? The most repetitive thing that you do for your clients?
Probably key art.
Key art.
Key art.
Okay.
So key art would be you take a game, a toy, and you create a piece of art that speaks to what the thing is. A key art, for instance, for video games is like what we call a window into the game. Yeah. It's not representative of the game like a screenshot would be, or a piece of playthrough would be. But key art is like aspirational. Okay. So what you do. So a piece of marketing material. Yeah. That speaks for the game. Yeah, and it's the face of the game for majority of customers. Probably the first thing they see are certainly in advertising, it's what's used prevalently in the web or in posters, point of sale as well. So it has to have a certain amount of impact as well. So key art is something that draws your attention immediately, like any good book cover as well. It's the same thing. So eventually, that's where book covers are, right? So then probably you've done more than one. Well, yeah, in a way. But I've come to think differently about the whole concept of book covers. Like, it doesn't matter that it's on a book, really. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's the purpose of it at the end of the day, whether it's a toy or whether it's a game or whether it's a book or whether it's any piece. Mostly, and that's just why I call myself a commercial artist. It's not about selling art for art's sake, or it's not about creating art even for art's sake. Although there's an element of creativity, an element of artistry involved in it. It's more about actually, at the end of the day, selling something and helping other people achieve their goals. Yeah, because that's what you do as an artist as well. Mostly is you help other people. Well, maybe as a commercial artist, that's what you do. In the commercial realm, you're definitely helping other people achieve their goals. Yeah, and so then what would be, we've just spoken about, your typical project. What would be the one project that you've done, I don't know, professionally that you would be, most proud of, or something that, that you frequently remind yourself of, or I think that's a good thing. I think most artists have something that they've done in the past that they go back to, and it's I did really a good job there, and it went beyond the... Exactly, just to tap yourself in the back. And sometimes it's just to reinvigorate yourself. You go back to that work and you say, okay, this is one piece that I did. I can point to one particular piece, and I did it in probably 2006, and it was the front cover for MotoGP 07, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure, but it was MotoGP, but one of the years. And it was Valentino Rossi in his yellow Yamaha kit with the bike. It was a very extreme angle as well, and he was looking over his shoulder, and that was, for me, it was also... It's not the best work I've done. I've done way better, way more complex stuff, but it gels in a way that I really like. And it's a combination of color, the form, the composition. Everything really worked really well in that particular image. Now, I do look back on it and go, if I had a week more, I could have done a ton of other things. I modeled the figure in Maya at the time, and obviously, like, having learned ZBrush in the interim, I'd go back and I would do it a completely different way. I would have way more detail. I could apply the knowledge I have now to that.
Yes.
I know I could have done a way better job, but I still go back to that image. I still use it as my avatar everywhere.
Really?
So yeah. I still,
that's right. Now I know what's your avatar like.
You know the one,
Okay.
right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
The yellow guy.
Yeah, the yellow guy, yeah, that's the one.
Right.
And I think for me it's definitely about the attitude of the character in that pose, kind of, and everything about that, the art direction that was, the feedback I got from the client as well in that pushed it towards that.
Okay.
Because there are other covers that I did for the MotoGP series that I'm like pretty forgetful. You know, I don't really think too much about them, even though I know some of them are even technically better.
Yeah.
They're better lighting, better modeling, and whatnot. But somehow there's you know, what's that French word?
Yeah. But I mean, like, I personally think that technical perfection doesn't always mean the best quality artistically.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
sometimes the simplest things can work in a way that complex things can't.
For sure.
So I do look back on that, and I think that's like a keystone. And I think it's also a keystone moment for me because it was wasn't the first game cover I did, but it was the first game cover I did that was a success for me, in that I used that to go on and do almost everything else I did in the games industry.
Right. Okay.
So it was a springboard for me in a way. I had done previously, I'd done the MotoGP cover the year before.
Yeah, okay.
But it was I don't think the artwork that I did made the cover. I think that was the difference. It was on the back of the box, or it was the inside of the box, or something. But that was the first actual cover that I did.
So also professionally for you, that's definitely like a milestone.
Yeah, it was, because also previously, I think in 2005, I'd done Ace Combat, and what I'd done with Ace Combat was kind of a sort of a half job. I took artwork that had been done in Japan, and I had to replace parts of the artwork for it to be sold in Europe.
Right.
So there was an airplane that was, and it was a significant job because it was the first time even any part of my artwork was used in a cover. And I remember when it came out in the shop at the time, it was like, you know, this is crazy. I can't believe I've done this.
Awesome.
And it was it was a pretty cool modeling job that I did at the time. I was very proud of the work. But then I think as an artist, when you see something that you've contributed part of, it doesn't have the same impact for you as something that you've completely created and it's completely yours. You own it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can totally understand that, and we'll definitely put the link to the image on the show notes.
Right.
And I think I haven't actually seen the whole thing, but I would be really curious at looking at the complete picture. But I know the yellow man really well because it's everywhere on your social profiles.
Yeah, I use it everywhere. I use it absolutely everywhere.
Now we solved the mystery of the yellow guy.
Yeah, but that's why it means so much to me. I use it because it means so much to me. And I continue to. I've often been tempted to go back and work it again and do more. Make it. But I think there's a purity in just drawing a line under something and saying that's it. That's what it was.
Sure. Yes. Of course.
Otherwise, it'd be like George Lucas going back and redoing Star Wars.
Yeah, but at the same time, to me, it just sounds like a great idea for 20 years later type of project. You know, just remake the guy with all the details that you can add.
I've actually done this, not deliberately, but actually, I think. No, I started in 96, maybe 95, even with 3 Studio, whatever. And I remember one of the very first projects I did was a Porsche 911.
Okay.
I did a rendering of it, and I still have it. I still have this little, and it's a thumbnail sketch. I think I had did it 640 by 480, which was the standard render size in '96, and that took like a day. That took a day to do. So then, maybe in, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2013, I did a project for EA, which is Need for Speed.
Yeah.
And I did a Porsche 911, and
wow.
I had nothing to do with the modeling of the car really.
Yeah.
The car came to me like fully modeled, but I had to do the key art with that car. And
That's
I
funny,
did,
right?
And I did. Even the funny thing was that the art direction for it was this Porsche head-on view with the classic round headlights coming towards you at speed, and I did exactly that image in '96, and I think I put it on Instagram at some point, like a comparison between the two.
Yes.
And it's like you guys probably don't even, like, most people who are working in the 3D industry who are like quite young, right, maybe in their 20s and the 30s, you know, they don't know that like in 1996, pretty much between 96 and 2006, it was like there was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
One big
literally
black hole.
nothing, because there was no learning resources, no good software as well, which was obviously a big thing.
Yeah, that's such a big hiccup, right? Like basically.
But it's funny because you don't see the progression between some. I mean, to a certain extent, you see the artistic progression.
Yeah,
but you don't see the technical progression of the software until you like start to compare renders that you did 25 years ago.
Yeah, because
almost,
what like ZBrush started in 1999, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that, yeah, and it's relatively new. Even that didn't exist when I was learning.
Oh, if you
And
said
even
1996, there's like one of your.
But even '99, I mean, you're talking about like say ZBrush came in and then, but it didn't become like ubiquitous until maybe the mid 2000s. So I remember my first encounter with ZBrush was in Real Time UK.
Okay.
I went to work there for a few months, and I had an opportunity to work on a Sega title. It was called The Club, sort of a forgettable fighter game.
So that was in 2000s?
That was in 2007.
Okay.
And that was the first time I ever touched ZBrush. It was a complete revelation in terms of what you could do, and I could see the benefit there. But pretty much before that, I kind of heard of it. I'd seen a few pictures from it coming out, like something with like mega detail.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, ZBrush can do like this amazing mega detail. You know?
Okay.
You couldn't do anywhere else.
Sure.
Like, it was impossible.
So let's talk a little bit about this black hole that was before everything became possible.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you? Like, you know, just before you became a full-time digital artist, what did you, like, how did you transition to this career? Even?
Oh, I went straight from university to become a full-time digital artist.
Okay.
Yeah, but the fact is that there was no course that was like digital art in that time. So it was 1996. I went into university in 1991.
Okay.
And I started doing mechanical engineering.
Okay.
And with the idea that I was going to become an aeronautical engineer because I love planes.
Yeah.
I love designing planes. I love building model planes. I had hundreds of them in my room. I spent my childhood either building Lego or building scale models and painting them. So it was like a natural progression, obviously.
Yeah.
And then when you look at what's available for you, because that's what all kids did at the time, they're like, you go to your guidance counselor and they say, okay, here's the courses that are available.
Yes.
Here's what you're good at. Oh yes, you got good marks in maths and physics. Yeah, you better be an engineer. So, but the fact is, when I was in my first year of secondary school, I wanted to do art.
Yeah.
And I was told very clearly by my vice principal that I was wasting my time, that there's no jobs in art, and I should go and, you know, focus on concrete things like maths.
It's like, boy,
physics.
don't disappoint your mother.
Exactly. Well, my mother was great, and in fact, when I finally decided I wanted to be an artist, my father was like wholeheartedly behind me. And
really?
Yeah, I was in, like, I'd done a year in university, I think maybe even a year and a half, and I was like, I did a course in mechanical engineering, and it was design practices. So it was industrial design basically, and then I did this just the one module for 8 weeks, but I like completely changed my outlook on what I wanted to do with my life. It was just literally like, I didn't know anything before then. I didn't know what there was. I had only listened to people telling me that there's no jobs in art. And then I encountered industrial design, which is like, it's a curious mixture of art and engineering.
Okay.
So I gelled with it so much because I think that's how I am. I'm not like a pure artist. I'm not a fine artist, painter, sculptor, or something like that. But I'm not a pure engineer either. So I'm not like just interested in making things work. Although I love aspects of that, and I love aspects of creative art. And then that's where I kind of found a niche initially. So I said, okay, that really gels with me. Let's try that.
Right.
And I decided to like drop my pen on engineering and say, okay, I'm going to do industrial design. And it's curious because there's no way I'd be where I am today doing what I love if I hadn't made that decision then. And I could only have made that decision then because of a curious coincidence. It was my university actually was not an art university at all, but the industrial design course, was being run by the art university in Dublin. And they had a kind of a year, the first year of the course they spent doing engineering type things. So we kind of crossed over a little bit, but it was like just for that year. And I managed by some bureaucratic coincidence to be able to shift from one to the other, even though I had really no right to go to art school because I had never presented a portfolio. I didn't go through the usual selection process, which is quite stringent to get into an art.
Such a free rider you are.
I totally free rode into it. And not only that, the course was full. Of course, and you can't change courses a lot of the time when the course is full. And then some guy dropped out.
Oh, okay.
And it was like that confluence of circumstances that allowed me to just switch. But it was like the key moment in my life.
Wow.
That everything else flowed from. And then there's a few of them, like the MotoGP guy as well. They're like key moments that are, the Steve Jobs talk. When he talks about when you look back and you see those moments in your life where things take a turn.
Yeah.
I can identify clearly. Even I remember very clearly the day that I decided that I'm going to do this, and it was a huge decision for me because the idea of abandoning a solid career to do something completely unknown and untested, and I didn't know anyone who did this. There was no. All the artists I knew, and I knew a few artists when I was growing up. They were like, weird.
Yeah, of course, like artists.
Weirdos.
That's the thing. Like I think
and mostly bums as well.
The traditional artists and digital artists have like absolutely different profiles, and
totally.
like exactly like we don't hang out with weirdos.
Well, I do now.
Well, apparently I do now as well.
So it was a huge risk to do that, and I remember phoning my father because I was away in university, and I presented this idea to him, and he said, "Yeah, is that what you want to do?" It's like, yeah. It's like,
wow, interesting.
It's like, do it. Don't look back. Do it.
So, what was your first first actual paid job?
My first paid job was a year before I went to finished university. Rather, I was in my third year, and I got an internship in a small company in Galway, and they were doing. In fact, this is how I got into 3D art. I did industrial design obviously for 4 years. It had nothing to do with 3D. In fact, we had computers with AutoCAD on it,
Of course.
So there was no 3D.
Yeah. So for this internship, were you doing something related with industrial design and stuff, or?
Well, no. Actually, I was doing. It was a company dedicated to computer graphics.
Okay.
And I was doing mostly infographics and maybe some architectural, some product work as well. But then I went into this company and they had computers with 3D Studio on it. I was learning 3D Studio for the summer, or for it was about 6 months, the internship. Yeah. So I did initially 3D Studio. And in fact I didn't even learn it. They put me at a computer, put the 3D Studio Bible down beside me and go, there's was the manual maybe. I think it was the Inside 3D Studio or whatever it was at the time. Those big thick books that were very popular in the 1990s for learning software. And they put that beside me and they say, okay, here you go.
Study.
Learn.
Yeah, okay.
There was no training on the job or anything like that. And but you know what? I opened the book and I opened the software and I started to explore it.
Yeah.
And I learned AutoCAD before because I learned it in engineering and I learned it in industrial design. So it was a natural extension from 2D into 3D.
When was the last time you used the 3D Studio?
3D Studio. Well, 3D Studio.
Like,
well,
10 years? No, 2
no, Dick, come on, 20.
20, yes. Yeah.
Well, we were talking
I lost the track of time.
95, so that's 24 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, but after the internship, I started to do more. In fact, I went back to university and I started to use the 3D that I learned in the company then to do my final year project.
Okay.
And I think it was the first time that anyone had actually used 3D renderings, or maybe one of the first times somebody used 3D renderings to present designs to an industrial design course, because we were used to doing marker renderings or airbrush renderings or whatever, and there was a big debate about whether we should even accept 3D renderings as part of your final project. And I think the idea is that they were very locked into a method.
Yes.
So there's like where we do sketches with HB pencils and Bic pens, and we do marker renderings, we do pastels, and that was built into the course. So
yes.
That's what you learn as part of the course. So I think it's logical that they're kind of testing your abilities on the skills that you've learned in the course. But then after 4 years of design, then you're not being tested on whether you can draw or whether you can do a marker rendering. You're being tested on the quality of your design work.
Okay.
So my argument was that regardless of how I present, the design work is the same.
Sure.
In fact,
it's difficult to argue with that.
What 3D allowed me to do is be much more concrete about the design and much more definitive, which is, I mean, in a way it's good if you have if you have a good design and you have something that is thought of to the last detail and you're able to express that in the image. But a lot of the time marker renderings allow you to be a little bit fluffy and allow you to be a little bit vague about details, whereas 3D doesn't.
Yeah.
3D makes you pay dearly if you don't put the detail in.
Of course.
And that's, at the end of the day, it's a compromise. It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
So, but my argument, I think, won out in the end, and I was allowed to present my 3D renderings.
This is so crazy, like how much the technology has evolved, because of course, like I'm very well aware, because I'm also the person that also used to use like floppy disks and stuff. I'm, and the internet that connected with this. 14.4K modem. Yeah, and you paid a lot of money per minute.
It was like making a phone call.
Yeah, it was like.
That's crazy.
But it's crazy, that also like art technology also has evolved so much.
Yeah.
So talking about technology, what's the technology that you use nowadays? What's your stack?
Okay, it's changed over the years.
But now,
Currently, I'm using Maya predominantly for modeling, for rendering. V-Ray, of course, because V-Ray is like a staple, whether I use Max or Maya or whatever. And because the majority of the work, the end product that I produce are rendered images, so that's a really important tool in my pipeline. But then, to support that and to build what I have is Maya. I have ZBrush, obviously, is becoming much more important for me. Substance Painter is like a huge thing, I think. It's probably one of the biggest changes for me, just even in terms of doing clean models.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people use Substance Painter and they're like, there's rust and dirt everywhere. Mostly I don't do that. If I have a nice new product with big streaks of procedural dirt on it, no, the clients are not going to be happy about that. So yeah, but it's important even for adding materials.
Yeah.
Just getting materials right, and I'm doing a lot more with Painter now than I used to. And I use HDR Studio.
Okay.
HDR Studio, again, has been one of those kind of like constants in my workflow since about 2009 when they first came out. I did beta testing for them on the very first release, and immediately I could see the benefit of it. It's so intuitive. It's like it's really the best. It's not like it's a software that's actually developed quite a lot in the years, but it doesn't really it's not one of those softwares that does everything, but it does something so well, that one thing so well, that it's definitely worth it for me. Mostly I use it for almost everything now. Any rendering task, any lighting setup task, I'm using HDR Studio. At least in to get overall lighting in scenes, or just to completely light scenes. And then what else? I mean, Photoshop is classic. I briefly flirted with Infinity Photo.
Okay, and?
Went back to Photoshop in the end because this, again, and it's mostly about delivery, because I think if you're delivering, and I deliver Photoshop files to clients so that there's some retouching, say, afterwards, it's mostly about fitting into pipelines.
Okay.
So if I have a pipeline, if I'm working with a client who has a definitive
conversions
Photoshop,
are a pain.
Yeah, and I was going and exporting from Infinity to Photoshop and that. But the reason I was using Infinity was actually because, and it's not because of Adobe's subscription model or anything like that, I'm quite happy with that. It's because I think Adobe Photoshop has just not, it's not kept up with the technology. So what you need, or when you see something like Nuke that can deal with 32-bit, it's like right now that linear workflow, 32-bit, OCIO color, ACES, which is like new technologies that are coming in for managing color. That's where you want to be. And I work a lot in stills, so I don't do a lot of animation, I do a lot of video, so I don't use Nuke. And Nuke for me, it's overkill for what I do. But then there's nothing in between Nuke and Photoshop that can bridge the gap, that can have the functionality. And also, the nice thing about Nuke then is it's nodal networks, so you can build kind of almost procedural compositions and non-destructive compositions, whereas Photoshop is kind of, it's good, but it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know, you're still working with layers, and you're still working with painting and that in a very traditional way that hasn't changed basically since Photoshop version 3, maybe when layers first came in. And I'd like to see something like almost like Mari, but not texture based, something like Photoshop, so that you could get maybe the functionality of Nuke and the options to deal with 32-bit compositing in a still environment. So
that's a really good point. I mean, like, that's very interesting. What else do you think you are missing from technology? You know, like, what else would you like to see hit in the market?
I've struggled with cloud rendering for a long time. Like V-Ray Cloud.
I've heard this many times.
V-Ray Cloud is cool, but I think it's still in development, obviously, and still leaves a little bit to be desired.
Definitely.
Render farms are great, but it's about the gap between when you hit the button and when things start to happen. That's what we've always looked at reducing. Like when you hit the render button, you want the image, boom, there. GPU is good, but I honestly struggle to get anything usable out of GPU because of the requirements of the images that I produce. We're talking about like mega images, and I don't then have the budget to invest in a 10 GPU box that's sitting there most of the time, sitting there doing nothing.
That's the thing, like, you know, I think there is so much to optimize, because so many artists out there like need to produce this quality, but at the same time you don't have the capacity at home, like. Yeah,
but it's getting there. I think.
Sure, I mean, it's everything, little by little.
Yeah, V-Ray Cloud is the prototype. You know? Yeah. It's like cloud storage.
Yeah.
Cloud storage like 5 years ago was nothing. You know?
Yeah, it was maybe like 10 years ago it was definitely nothing.
Yeah, but you look at the trajectory of Google Drive and Google Dropbox, for instance, Dropbox, and you see where they were.
Yeah.
I saw it just yesterday. I saw the intro video. They were showing it at a Thai workshop that I was at, and they were showing the very first video that the inventor of Dropbox put up on YouTube or whatever it was at the time. It wasn't YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, this is how I want things to be, and it was a vision. It was that's what it was. It wasn't a concrete product. He had no product at the time at all. He just wanted to see would people be interested in him developing that product. It wasn't even a prototype. It was like, this is what I would like. So here's the thing: when you come to rendering as well, here's what I would like, and my ideal is that nothing. I would like absolutely nothing between me and the final image. I would like to press the button. I would like the software to just drag buckets in from the internet and just get them to work without any friction whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not even, because even V-Ray Cloud is not frictionless. It's still another process.
We'll get there.
Yeah, and I think it will go, because I think that's the vision that a lot of people have. I think what they just want stuff to work.
Yeah.
And I remember at Total Chaos 2 years ago, they were talking to me about this exact concept. It was like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to deal with X. Like, for instance, in rendering, we're like constantly looking for clean images. And there's new technologies like denoisers and but also it's like when you're working with V-Ray, now they've reduced the function to just one button that controls the level of quality, overall quality of the image. Basically, they're so smart, those guys, because they recognize that people don't want to go in and try and figure out where the noise is or where the problems are. They just want the software to do it.
Yeah, just work.
Yeah, just work. And leave us to actually focus on the creative things. Because that's what the thing is. Our attention is divided so much between managing limitations and managing software, managing difficulties.
Sure.
That we're not focusing on things that are really important, and that is like how amazing you want the image to be, how beautiful you want it to be, what you're saying with the image, and it's like when you're developing a lighting solution for something, like you don't want to have to wait 5 minutes when you tweak a light, then you see what the impact of that is. You want immediate feedback.
Of course,
that's the thing. Otherwise, it's a struggle. It's not enjoyable. But when you have that immediate,
you just need to buffer this time also. In your workflow,
that's true.
The wait time, the time when it accumulates 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's never time. It's never 5 actually.
No, it's not. It's always more, and then it's disruptive to your workflow, and it takes you out of the moment. You can't develop a lighting solution. Particularly on a complex scene, if you don't have almost immediate feedback.
Sure. Yeah, talking about workflow, what's yours? What would be a typical workflow for you?
Well, on a typical project, I start usually directly in 3D.
Oh, okay.
I start building almost immediately. I don't generally go through sketching or any preliminaries. The preliminary work I do is largely resource gathering. So I'll identify early in a project what I need later on, and whether that is reference material or whether it's like stock models or whether it's textures or whatever. I'll try to gather all that in the first phase of the project as much as I can, because then when I actually start building, then it starts to happen fast. So I'm not stuck in the middle going, shoot, I need a tree here or something, or I need a model of a human being and so on. I like to have everything organized up front, and then once I start, then it's like the magic happens.
Yes.
Sort of.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, you get into it, and then but everything that takes you out of that moment is like to be avoided.
Yeah.
And that's it. When my workflow as well is when I'm sitting down to work, I clear the desk, I get everything in order, I make sure that if I want coffee, the coffee's on the table, and then
a row of coffees, like a lineup.
Sometimes, but I like to be very organized in both like in my physical space and my digital space.
Mm-hmm.
So I use apps. Like I use PureRef a lot now, which is kind of a board, like an image board that stays on top or kind of goes down. It's not like a folder full of images that you flick between them. It's like just everything on a board, and I lay them out and I put everything in its place, and I use that as reference for anything I need during the project. And so that's part of my kind of ritual for starting a project. And I think it's important to have a ritual for me. I find it difficult to sit down and then just work. I like to start with a little win.
Sure.
You know?
No, I absolutely understand. Yes, of course.
Just to get yourself organized, a little win. It's like when you get up in the morning, you make your bed.
Yeah.
It's like that's a little win. It's like, okay, now I can do that.
I totally agree. I think it definitely helps you to kind of like get in the flow.
Yeah.
Just like something to get started. And then it flows. Yeah.
So what I like to do is pick the absolutely easiest thing that I know I can do. It's like a snowball.
That's cheating, Brendan.
No, it's not. It's not cheating at all. In fact, it's
like in a good way. It's like positive cheating. Oh, hacking. Of course.
It's hacking my own brain. That's how like kids say it these days.
Yeah. All right.
So what you do is you start with if you have a model to start with, it's like what is the absolutely simplest thing that I can do right now to get something on the board?
That's such a great tip.
It's like okay.
Thank you for that. I think that's such a great tip.
That character is extremely complex, but look, he has he has an earring. Let's put the earring in first. Boom, the earring is done. And then everything else just starts.
Yeah, you know what? This methodology totally works for me as well. Yeah. I think there are two types of people, because there's another way of thinking is eat that frog. So you start with the hardest thing. Personally, that never works for me. When you start with some complex project that you're really dreading, I'm just I'm just gonna procrastinate until the day's gone.
Well, that's the thing. It's also called the snowball effect. Is that do you know Dave Ramsey, right?
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey's like snowball debt. So you start with the smallest debt first, and you pay that off. And he's right. He's absolutely right, because it's about hacking your own brain. It's about telling your brain or dictating to your brain, and it's about, first of all, getting something done, getting it on the paper is energizing.
Yeah.
You feel good about it, and then you feel the next thing, and the next thing, and you start off like that. But when you're faced with like a blank canvas and a big thing to do, you can't even fit it in your mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%.
Like if you start with building a character and you start this character is like a full realistic human, or it could be a car as well. The car is like there's a million parts, and you go, where the hell do I start? It's like start with a polygon. Yeah. And then that's the hood, or that's the bonnet.
Yeah.
And then
and little by little you have it.
Yeah.
So since we started talking about routines, actually that's one of the questions that I also wanted to ask. Because I know that you work from home, and you're self-employed, so you kind of manage your work arrangements.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about your routine? Because I think that's really exciting. I'm a big fan of your day organization, and on all of stuff you're doing with sports. I think that's amazing and very inspiring, being able to balance things. I'm not sure how you self-evaluate yourself, but
I go through various phases in my life where,
as we all do,
things spiral out of control, and then
that's fine.
I tighten them back up, and then I'm
and then you're too tight,
and then I'm running and then and I loosen up, and then but then but it's like spinning plates, it's like you have to keep it a light touch, keep it going, and then.
Otherwise, it's Okay, so we're talking about routines. What's yours like? Maybe at this point of life? I don't know if you're like really, really tense or it doesn't look like that.
I'm sort of in between at the moment.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good place. I feel a good balance right now. It's hard to keep that going as well because there's a lot going on right now with me. And but I think the key is being disciplined, not to the point of fanaticism, but I think being somewhat disciplined about how you work and what you do. So, like for instance, if you want to do something sporty, you want to do some sports, or you want to do some exercise, you have to schedule it.
Yeah.
You have to make it. You have to make the time, because I think it comes down to basically decision. You want to decide to do something, but you don't want to decide to do it every day. It's like you get up in the morning at the same time every day because it takes away a certain amount of decision weight from you. Or you say, I'm working from this hour to this hour every day, and that kind of removes one more decision that you have to make during the day, so you don't have to think about it.
Okay.
It's like I'll go to the gym in the morning, and I have different things that I do on different days. I swim, or I ride my bike, or I ride on a Sunday as well. But if you ask me what I'm doing on Sunday, like 2 years from now at 11 o'clock, I can almost tell you exactly where I'll be. But that kind of is good because it doesn't mean that I'm restricted in a way. It just means that
I think it actually sets you free, vice versa.
Well, because
it's already scheduled, it's already planned.
Yes, of course.
And then you're free to do whatever you want. You don't need to.
But it doesn't mean I schedule absolutely every minute of every day, because you can't do that.
Okay.
That goes towards the extreme and the tense.
So what's your typical working day like?
I'm up at 6 o'clock every day.
Okay.
Regardless of what day of the week it is, and maybe with the exception of Saturday. And by 9 o'clock, usually I'm in the gym. Or I'll go swimming, or I'll go ride my bike.
Okay.
But I don't have time to ride my bike right now because I have a lot of work on, and so what I'm doing is still dedicating 1 hour at least in the morning to doing some exercise.
Okay.
I find exercise in the morning really helps me to get going. And then usually by 10 o'clock I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working.
Okay.
So, and I work from 10 maybe until 4:15.
Okay.
And then I have to do the school run, and then maybe if I'm up to it, after 10 o'clock I'll do some more work. So 10 to 12 maybe, depending on project scheduling then. But I try to keep the evenings free for family. So that's between, say, 4:30 and 9:30.
So basically, you don't overwork yourself to 60 or 80 hours per week.
No, I can't do that anymore. I used to do that, and I paid so much for it. It was just, in fact, the quality of your work was down, beyond a certain amount.
Really?
Oh yeah. You can't work, and particularly when you get a little bit older, you can work maybe 10 hours in the day and not have it affect you too badly. But if you're working 14 or 16 hours a day for a week, you're not functioning.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You need sleep, you need rest, you need to disconnect as well, because there are times where I definitely worked, and even recently I worked, till, I still keep my days free, but then I'm working from 10 o'clock in the night to maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then getting up at 6 again to do it all over again. It's just too much. I can't do that anymore. So there are moments, that I have to do that.
Okay.
Because of deadlines, or because of
no, but of course, that's not a great arrangement.
No, it's not a long-term strategy that works.
Okay.
I think for me, it's important to have a good balance between exercise, rest, and family time and work time. And I try to get 8 hours done in the day, and that's my dedication to the work and to the clients. Definitely, yeah. But beyond that, it's counterproductive. I think you're actually you're making life needlessly hard on yourself.
And so what are the other, I really like your tip about taking some decision making kind of a need from off your plate, so like scheduling things. What are some other things that you think you need to schedule except like sports?
Well,
or just basically like taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's that you have to do that first. I think that it's got to be in your like top 2 or 3 priorities, because I mean everything comes from yourself.
Yeah.
You know, your work, your dedication to your family, and your ability to perform anything. Basically, you have to look after yourself. You have to look after your health, make sure you're eating right, and make sure you're getting enough exercise and getting enough rest. Because without that, everything else starts to spiral out of control. I think and that's the thing. That's how you keep the balance, I think. But I think you also need to schedule time. Particularly for us, you need to schedule time for training and for learning.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
100% with you on that.
Yeah, because there's no stopping. Like, technology is one thing, but techniques are changing, and expectations change with techniques, and with new software, with new hardware comes different expectations from your clients, from ourselves, you know, from other people in our industry, and there's constant like struggle with budgets from clients. So you want to be able to at least keep up.
Sure, yeah.
And if not, get out ahead of the crowd.
Yeah, because the technology is evolving, you have to know how exactly it evolved and what you can do with that.
Yeah.
All these things.
The challenge is always, is find time to train. But you know, this is a good example. So you can get a new piece of software that will half the time that it takes you to do a job. So Substance Painter is a good example of that. Like, basically, is decimated the amount of time it takes to texture anything. So you're taking advantage of procedural nature of it to do things way faster that you couldn't possibly do by hand anyway. And there's a trade-off in that, is that sometimes everything starts to look the same, but I mean that's irrelevant right now. The benefit of that is, okay, so it takes you maybe half the time to texture a model using Substance Painter versus using a traditional method like just Photoshop. The problem is that in order to get to half the time, you have to invest a certain amount of time in learning the software, doing your training, watching videos, because it's quite intuitive, but it's not that intuitive. It's not without cost.
No. It's not like press one button that's in the middle of the screen and it will do all the job. You still need to.
Yeah, you still need to invest time in learning and to get the best out of the software, you need to practice. But in order to get there, in order to get to that half the time, you have to invest time in learning. And a lot of the time, we don't have the time. So you're stuck in this kind of catch-22 situation where you're doing things that it's taking you twice as long to do them, but you can't move because you don't have the time, because it's taking you twice as long.
Of course.
You know, so
and of course. And then you were much better off just investing this time and then saving like hours and hours.
Well, obviously it's easy to say, oh well, I just have to invest the time. I'm just gonna, but then you have to take that time from somewhere else. So you have to say, okay, either I take it away from family, or I take it away from my health or my well-being, or I take it away from work.
Yeah.
So what's the trade-off again?
Yeah, and also then if you're in a short strategy or a long-term strategy, you know, for your short-term strategy, maybe it's not great.
Yeah.
Because then you'll have a stressful week, because you'll have to spend this week training, or 2 weeks. But then long-term, are you better paid?
Yeah.
Are you winning better?
Absolutely. And
are you winning better projects?
This is the challenge. And I did this workshop yesterday about design thinking, and it opened up this, a very visual representation of this problem, is that companies have a lifespan. So they grow and along a curve, and then they reach a peak, and then they start to drop. Okay, and they showed maybe over the last 20 years, the lifespan of an average Fortune 500 company is 15 years. Or 17 years maybe. Anyway,
that's not a lot. That's not a lot.
And think about it, that I've been 24 years
in the industry,
and I have been since 2003 16 years in my own business, my own company. So then it's like, oh, that's next year.
Exactly. Wow.
Let's go. Okay, I better.
We're not talking about averages here, Brendan, right?
No,
basically, it can go either.
Yeah, but that's my point is that if you don't evolve.
I mean, you could have been like, dead as a business 15 years ago already.
Could be. I could have. Yeah.
You're
could have
still
gone up
like,
in the crisis of 2008, but I managed to weather that one fairly okay. But the way to manage that is to reinvigorate the company, so you don't die on the vine. You don't hit the peak and then drop when you do it.
It's like
as soon as you're on the up,
things and
as soon as you're on the up, you're already thinking about the next thing, and the next thing, the curve is like. And then it's like it's a wavy curve. So one goes up and one goes down. Then the next thing takes over. It's like if you think about it in products, when you launch your product, it's when you start designing your next product.
Yeah.
Because you know that product has have a lifespan, and that's the same with skills as well. So my skills for 3D modeling constantly need renovation, and anything related to my day-to-day work needs renovating, because the next thing along could be, and it's not just in terms of your base skills, it's also a lot of the time about what you target as your market. So
sure.
A lot of people want to evolve also as artists, and I certainly do. I don't want to be just doing one type of work for the rest of my days. I want to experience other things.
I think this is such a great thing to keep in mind, and thank you for this comment. I really appreciate that. I think this is so important to keep in mind, that if once you're an artist, like, you still have to keep evolving as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep in mind what kind of artist do you want to be.
Yeah,
and
so if you're a hard surface artist and you want to be a character artist, how do you make that transition? How do you do it? It's like, okay, they're almost two completely different tracks, but you have to start exactly with the same way you started with hard surface. You have to start building stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to start the basics, and then accept that for a certain amount of time you're going to suck at it.
Of course.
And that's...
Or even like with every new technology.
Yeah.
Like, explore the technology, see where it's going to take you, and you're going to suck with that.
Yeah,
definitely.
You're going to suck. Yeah,
the first time.
It's like learning a musical instrument as well.
Sure.
Because if you've never learned a musical instrument, it's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're good at something else.
Yeah.
So if you're an accomplished athlete and then you pick up a musical instrument, the humility that you have to practice with hours on end in order to improve is
I know you're practicing.
His character building,
Character building. Yeah, I know you're practicing ukulele, right? That's very related, right?
Yeah.
Do you suck?
I suck big time, not even at all good.
Yeah, but you know what? There is one last topic that I really wanted to touch, like, now before we round up, and it's related with like client work.
Yeah.
Because you do a lot of work to keep winning your clients, I know, and like re-winning them. Like, like a beautiful knight on a white horse. I mean, to be in the business for 16 years, you surely mastered the skill, of like winning the clients. So can you just quickly, maybe give an overview of what's your process for actually winning the clients? Because that's a totally separate process from being an artist.
Yeah,
because also as artists, we have to sell ourselves.
Yeah.
Very important. So what's your relationship with selling yourself as an artist?
Yeah, I think it's something that is fundamental. That if you can't talk to the client and assure them.
Or a job, or like an employer, sorry,
Or an employer as well.
It's just the same, like your client is your boss and employer, and
I mean, your very first contact with a new client, for instance, is vitally important. How you address them, how you talk about their project. So somebody will approach me and ask me to do something, and even if you're rejecting them, you have to reject some projects. There's no way around that. So there's some projects are not a good fit. Sometimes it just doesn't work with your schedule or whatever. You have to treat every single client with utmost respect, first of all. Like, you can't go, no way am I doing this. This sucks. No, you have to be at least let them down let them down nicely. And I think treating people with a little bit of empathy and respect is very important first of all. And you have to put yourself in their shoes first of all, because your service is important to them for sure, but also you're trying to build a relationship with them. So your interaction has to be, very, very, very on point from the very start, and you have to treat it like a relationship. When you meet somebody new, there's like a certain deference that you have. You don't, unless you're very, very outgoing and very, I guess, I don't know what the word is.
Okay.
I'm lost on that word. You have to first of all test the water. So you have to establish a relationship, and you do it little by little.
Okay. Okay.
But I think you have to put yourself in their shoes. That they're going to spend an awful lot of money on you, basically, so that you can produce something that's going to be useful to them.
Thanks, Brendan. That's been like seriously really, really cool. Finally,
yeah.
My 10 questions, and your task is just to reply in 1 or 2 words.
Okay.
That's going to be real quick, short and sweet. They're going to be real hard now. Okay, so your favorite place in the world is?
On the saddle of my bike.
Oh, while I'm working, I listen to?
Nothing.
Okay.
Sometimes music. Sometimes podcasts.
Oh god, that's not 2 words.
Mostly nothing.
Mostly nothing. That's good. My best way to gain inspiration is?
Yeah, turn off my computer.
Love it. My big life goal is?
I don't know. Keep doing what I'm doing right now and get better.
All right.
No, actually, let me rephrase that. Get better.
Right. That even fits the 2 words.
Yeah.
My favorite drink is?
Red wine.
Right. First thing I do in the morning after I wake up is?
What did you say that?
Okay.
I'm getting to that age.
Alright, next question. If I didn't become a digital artist, I would be?
Fixing things.
Right. A book or movie that you can recommend?
Book or movie?
Or just, go for a book.
A book. Okay, a book. Essentialism.
Essentialism, yes.
Essentialism. Very good.
What I'm reading now.
Oh, good. I just finished it. It's very enjoyable.
Alright. One thing that motivates me to work more?
No, achievement. I think challenge. Definitely challenge. Overcoming something difficult.
Okay. And then top 3 things or places on your bucket list?
My bucket list. Oh, that's a hard
Oh, you
one.
can do one.
Yeah, Japan is definitely on my bucket list.
Japan.
I'd love to go to Japan.
Alright, done. High five, Brendan. Thank you so much.
That was
That
great.
was amazing. That was great having you.
Yeah, that was great fun.
Yeah, alright. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. And before I go, just a final reminder that Stylized Character Program by Art Heroes is open now. Check out academy.artheroes.co for all the information, for the dates,